What's up, people? Our guest of today's episode of Passion Chasers is 94.3 Radio 1 RJ Erica D'Souza. Radio 1 listeners will be very familiar with Erica as the host of the show Drive Mumbai, the premium drive show on Mumbai's only international radio station. What many may not know is the fact that she is a science student with degrees from Victorian universities such as La Trobe and Monash. Armed with a bachelor's degree in microbiology and bioethics, Erica has gone on to build a very successful career in the field of media and entertainment. I'm really excited for this conversation and learn from Erica how she chose to bring her passion alive and how Melbourne helped her on her chosen path. So, welcome Erica to Passion Chasers.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It is great to do this. I've been chatting with a lot of kids, my 18-year-old son included, and I'm so happy to share my experience with you.
I have to ask the first question. You studied science and built a career in entertainment. Can you explain how that happened?
Let me just put this in context. I kind of moved to Australia in the late 80s. So things weren't as, I should say, connected then as it is now. Students today are exposed to so much more. You get so much more information to make your choices. So coming from India, where I was, academically a good student, which meant that I have to take up science. Not that I didn't enjoy it. I absolutely love science. I also loved media and I loved entertainment. And I was also dabbling in it, through my growing years in Mumbai City. So here's me coming into Melbourne. My whole family shifted, and I had to, in fact, go back and do my year 12 again in order to be able to pursue my undergrad in Melbourne universities, which I did. But science seemed to be the next kind of logical step for the reasons explained earlier. So off I went. I chose microbiology because I was interested in it, and I went into La Trobe to start off with, and I began my undergrad career. All the while, let me just say, enjoying everything about media and the arts. It was only when I returned to India during the early '90s when the FM broadcast was actually being privatized that I said, okay, here it is, my passion. Let me try my hand at it, just to sort of get into it initially. And what started off as a fun thing to do, a fun project, ended up becoming a career choice.
I love that. I love that journey so much because there is so much to uncover in this podcast. You have studied in La Trobe University and Monash University.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I wanted to know more about that, your experience in these universities, and just in general, what did you like about it?
So I love La Trobe for a couple of reasons. It was a brilliant experience. For those who are planning to go to La Trobe, you've got the Agora, which is like this social space, a great hangout place. From a social, cultural aspect, every time, so you start university, your first year as an undergrad, it's such a new experience. You're open to so many new environments for study. You get a chance to network, you get introduced to new cultures, you get introduced to a new way of studying. For me, every day was super exciting. And the kind of contacts that I made at La Trobe University, I'm still in touch with them today. All these many years, I'm still in touch. It's the alumni is really, really, really strong. And then I moved into Monash University. Study there was such a breeze. I don't know how the years passed. And I remember having the most invigorating lectures in my philosophy of science, bioethics, learning all of that. For me, that was a new subject altogether. And like you, it was rote learning. We were sort of straight jacketed into certain things that we had to know, had to learn. We literally had to follow. Whereas over here, you are given the choice to make choices. You can pick and choose your subjects. You can dabble. I think the breadth of the courses on offer, are really, really vast, and you can make your choices as you go along. You can even change your majors as you go along. And I think that in itself is so liberating.
That is so true. Just changing your majors is just a concept that I had never heard of. I want to take you back to memory lane, your first couple of years in Australia.
Yeah.
What was different? Like, what was a cultural shock that you had?
Well, Australia as a culture is radically different from India, not just in the manner of speak, but their lifestyles. There's a lot to learn. It's a wonderful country that embraces nature. So if you're a nature lover, if you're an adventurist, you're going to love this country. They're very open-minded. They're really easy. They are very welcoming and warm, and it's a land that presents a lot of opportunity. My biggest takeaways, I think, being a student in Australia, I learned some very important life skills, which I wouldn't have had I been in India, whether it be, getting domesticated. We're talking the cooking and the washing and the doing the dishes, the budgeting, traveling solo. The struggles can get real, it definitely can, but the dividends and the payouts in the longer run, I mean, can never be underestimated. Those are my really, I mean, I had like three jobs at one point. So for me, all that was such a revelation, and I completely lapped it up.
I love that so much. I just wanted to add sports as well in Melbourne specifically because sports is such a big thing. Well, we're coming towards the end of this podcast. But before we wrap up, I have one final question for you. And that is, what would be your advice to those students who are either planning to study in Australia or who are already studying in Australia?
Well, fun fact, I have an 18-year-old who's just signed up to do his double degree out of Monash University, Science and Commerce. And like you mentioned earlier, someone else you
Yeah.
knew wasn't quite sure of their majors. So similar story with him. So when he was prepping for it, I said, look, you have to get your information from every possible source you can before investing in your choice of course. It's all available online. You can talk to as many people as possible, find your peer groups, ensure you have your roadmap ready before you embark on what will truly be, a life changing, positively fantastic experience that will hold you in good stead for the rest of your life.
I love that. I love that so much. I also wish if I had that advice. I loved all the experiences that you shared with us. Your experiences in India, your experience in Australia, the comparison that you have done, how you learned the culture, the Australian culture. You kept your Indian culture even though you have lived abroad for such a long time. So thank you so much for sharing everything. It was lovely to have you and listen to all the stories.
Thank you so much, and good luck with everything going forward as well, Dave.